Infinity Train is an amazing series full of complex characters who do questionable things. I know I say that about pretty much any character or show I talk about.
I mean, it shouldn't be, because there's probably one of the most unhealthy fusions in the show. I like how Steven Universe manages to make all of its characters complex. I like how it's not all black and white, like how good people can do bad things.
This girl, for the first 4 seasons, lived off of blaming everyone else for her behaviors and yelling at anyone who annoyed her. The final reason as to why BoJack's redemption was so good was that even in the final episodes, he wasn't perfect. I refuse to believe that in between the movie and this episode, she went from actively trying to kill Steven and destroy the Earth to one dark joke. She-Ra and the Princesses of Power had plenty of morally complex characters. But it's true for this one as well. And Lake is definitely no exception. She did many questionable things. I might do a video on that, but today we're just going to focus on one specific thing she did. I do not think it's the worst thing she did, but it's still very bad and also one of the most graphic scenes I have ever seen in a kid's show. I am of course talking about Mace's death. Before I hop into my different thoughts and whatnot on this scene, I'm gonna give a quick recap in case your memory is a bit rusty. Lake, Mace, and Alan Dracula end up away from the train. Mace is bleeding out the whole time and also being really condescending to Lake.
What do you think would happen if you were allowed through the exit? You just go out into the world with your metal skin and your magic gear and what? High school? Prom? College? Job? You and your prime with parallel lives?
They eventually reach a dead-end point in the wasteland and also upset some gomes. Lake and Mace talk some more, and eventually they decide to go back to the train. Well, more, Lake decides to go back to the train. Mace is literally dying, so he doesn't have much of a choice.
We're going, Alan Dracula!
Lake picks up Mace and they all make their way back to the train. Lake is holding on to the edge, like the side of the train, and Mace tries to pull Lake down to die with him, and in response, Lake violently grinds his head into a wheel and kills him. There is a lot to unpack here, so let's start with a question that's probably on a lot of your minds. How the hell did this end up in a kid's show? This scene is very graphic, no doubt about it. The fact that the main character violently murdering the villain on screen made it into a kid's show is truly baffling. Sure, we had fragments, but with that, the shattering wasn't shown on screen, and a shattered gem in of itself isn't overtly graphic.
Also, unlike Mace, Jasper, came back.
What made that scene dark was the viewer's understanding of what Jasper's shattered gem meant. This, on the other hand, is very straightforward in what is happening. You see the violence in vivid detail. It makes you wonder, how did this get past Cartoon Network's censors? Well, there are 2 plausible explanations that come to mind. The first is that Mace technically wasn't human. Yes, he was a person, but he wasn't a human like Tulip, Amelia, Jesse, Grace, or Simon. He was a denizen. And this kind of goes into the next reason. He doesn't bleed red. Because neither him nor Lake are technically human, they don't technically have blood, or at least not blood that is red. If they did bleed red, I highly doubt they would have kept it in the show. The other deaths in the show haven't been nearly as graphic, even with Tuba, who died pretty much the exact same way. With Atticus, they cut away so you don't actually see him getting shot. With Ulrich, his death was completely off screen and we only ever see the before and after. With Steve, he exploded in a way that was still graphic, but not nearly as much, and also even a little comical, let's be honest. With Tuba, it cuts away right before she hits the wheel. Notice that the only 2 we ever see on screen are Mace and Steve, who don't bleed red. And while I can't guarantee that Tuba bleeds red as well, it's definitely more obvious why they didn't show her death. In the grand scheme of things, Mace is just a sentient hunk of metal. From a certain perspective, Lake just grinded a screaming piece of metal into a wheel. That's probably why it got past the censors. Besides, it's not even like that was the first time they did something disturbing with a flex.
Hello, Miss Tulip. We're melting people.
Sir?
What's new with you?
There goes the sliver!
We gotta go!
You stay here in the prime world. I'm going after that sliver.
The buddy system! The buddy system!
Now, there's no way I can talk about Lake murdering somebody without, well, acknowledging that Lake murdered somebody. It's definitely bad, but also not terrible. Honestly, in this specific situation, it was either Mace was gonna die or they were both gonna die. Mace was trying to pull them both down to their deaths. Lake just made it so that it was just Mace. Did her expression concern me? Yes. Did the fact that she didn't give a second thought to killing him bother me? A little bit.
And if my last act is to bring you with me, Sliver, I can't imagine a better way to go.
Well, I can!
Is the fact that she seemed pretty unfazed by the whole ordeal a bit concerning? Absolutely. But again, it was either Mace and her or just Mace. And in just the next episode alone, she did 3 things that were so much worse from a moral standpoint, so her killing Mace doesn't seem all that bad when put next to these other things. Those are just my thoughts on it, though. Feel free to respectfully debate in the comments, assuming YouTube doesn't disable them. Anyways, let's wrap this up. To summarize, Mace's death was a very violent scene that likely only made it into the show because he didn't bleed red. And Lake killing him was not as heartless as it may look on paper. I will probably make more Infinity Train content in the future, so hopefully you enjoyed this. Farewell! Have a nice day!
Hello. So, this is fun time. If you see the thing on the screen, it's the YouTube membership thing. You know, I explained it, but basically, if you join a YouTube membership, one of my many perks is that I have your username at the end of videos. That's just the thing of video essays and during the Hellbound credits. Anyways, this was a fun video. There are other Infinity Train videos that I want to do, but haven't. This is my first. I mean, me and Dad did do a few videos, like talking about it, but this is my first video essay. Is what I'm trying to say. So this is my first video essay I've made about Infinity Train. I do want to make other videos about Infinity Train, like the darkest scenes for each season, the saga scenes for each season, the bad things like Lake. Honestly, Lake is a questionable character. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe, leave a like or a dislike, not gonna force your hand. Assuming comments aren't disabled again, feel free to leave a comment, but I'm not gonna force your hand. Yeah, goodbye.